And welcome into the Thursday edition. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Thursday morning. Ian Safar live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Hope everybody's off to a great start to their day today. Joe Rexrode, good morning. How are you doing? First mute of the day. It took 20 seconds for Rexrode to mute today.
God, how many shows have started like that with me just muting?
Significant portion, but not a crazy amount.
Not a crazy amount, but yeah. It's good because I started right off with a flurry of profanity there. But
that's good.
I'm doing okay. We had more power outages yesterday in Nolensville. We started flickering. And we were hearing reports of people, I think something else, a tree fell down or something like that. But a lot of the stuff is getting better. Some of our back roads are still pretty bad, which is, of course, I know that our county is done for the whole week, which is no big surprise. But it's getting better. I think we're getting to 38 today, so maybe that'll do some good damage.
We'll see what happens on that front. That would be great to get some of this on out of here. Ian Safar, how we doing? What's going on?
Oh, good morning. Doing just fine, thanks. Another pretty uneventful drive-in. So thank you to all the crews for getting the work done. Still a little dark and trees down here and there, which is a little creepy with ice on them. But doing good. We've been doing some snow day movie nights.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
There we go.
We started with Big Daddy.
Oh, yes.
Adam Sandler movie. We went to Titanic. And then E.T.
Okay. Oh, man, yes.
Yeah, and then
you're on a roll.
Yeah, they went down to Spy Kids last night.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah, I've suggested Spinal Tap. This is Spinal Tap. That hasn't come down the pike yet, but keeping an eye out.
Make it happen, man. Make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
It'll. Yes, that's an absolute winner. E.T. makes me cry every time, so it's kind of like Old Yeller.
Yeah. Oh, I love Old Yeller. Need to go watch Old Yeller again. I think it's on Disney Plus.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's a great one.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a minute since I watched that one. We got a lot going on in the program today. Charles Robinson, normally with us on Thursdays. He will actually be with us tomorrow on the program. Some scheduling stuff there. So Charles will be with us tomorrow for his weekly visit. So we will get his thoughts on the Brian Daboll, Robert Saleh pairing on tomorrow's program. Derek McKenzie, Predators assistant coach, will be with us today at 7:30. Preds are back in action tonight, taking on the New Jersey Devils. So another big game for them coming up. We will get into that with him. We got the Rob Rant coming up later in the show. We got best and worst things in sports later this hour. And as always, taking your thoughts. In the meantime, 615-737-1025. Joe, we're going to get into the Predators here in just a second, but I do want to start here. The Titans apparently have hired Greg Lewis as their new wide receivers coach, who was most recently the wide receivers coach with the Baltimore Ravens, and he spent 6 seasons in Kansas City with the Chiefs as their wide receivers coach from 2017 to 2022. So you're talking about obviously a guy that Borgonzi has familiarity with there in Kansas City, won a couple of Super Bowls there with the Chiefs. So what do you make of Greg Lewis? And what stands out to me about it, Joe, is they're continuing to add pretty good amount of experience to their coaching staff here. So in a lot of ways, it continues the theme of, I guess, the anti-Callahan staff who didn't have a whole lot of experience at all. They just keep bringing in people who have experience doing the job that they're offering them to do.
Yeah, and obviously whenever the last thing didn't work, if you do something different the next time, it sounds great. I mean, I think it sounds good in general, but I think you want a mix of youth and experience. I mean, you want you want some people on your staff who, you're always trying to identify. Obviously, people are going to go outside a lot of times. There's a coordinator, they're going to have a big search, things like that. But ideally, you can promote from within. If we go to the Vrabel staff, some of that worked out really well for him. Some of it didn't, but they definitely had a lot of, coaches that were sort of like, identified as, you could be next man up when it's your turn. So, but yeah, I mean, I can't, it's not like we've seen the entire staff here. I think experience is generally a good thing. It's possible to get have too old of a staff. I know there's been a lot of with Titans fans, like the hope that like Mike Munchak, for example, might be the only, I know Carsey's been out there like it's not happening. So, people should probably that was one of those things during this that people were hopeful of, but no, in general, it seems as though this staff, the experience, it's a good, balance of like experience, but like you still have a lot of meat on the bone there.
Yep, for sure. And Robert Saleh speaking later today, he will be addressing in the media his introductory press conference with the Titans. So looking forward to that coming up later today. We're going to get into Robert Saleh and, now that we know what the offensive coordinator is, now that we know kind of the beginning parts of what his staff is going to look like, how convinced are you that he's the guy that can turn this stuff around here in Tennessee? We're going to get into that a little bit later in the show. So looking forward to that. Joe, I want to start today on the Predators. We've talked a lot the last couple of days about the deadline and the decision coming up from Barry Trotz, and there's a lot of opinions on both sides that I've run across with Predators fans as to what to do. I want to get everybody's check on the two people we've talked a lot about with them over the last year and a half, and that is the general manager and the head coach. It felt like when they went to Sweden earlier this year, Joe, that things weren't going well. They had just lost the second game in Sweden to Pittsburgh, and you were coming back, and there was this nice long break before they were going to play a game again, which has not happened at all basically this year. And we talked about it on the show at the time. It was like, I think at that time they were either right at last place or close to last place in the NHL. It wasn't going well. They didn't look very good. They didn't look very competent at all. And it was like if there's a part of the schedule where you're looking to make a coaching change early in the year, this would be it, right? Like this would be the time to go ahead and make that coaching change. And obviously they did not do that. They stuck with Andrew Brunette, and they've played better hockey since then, and they played well in the month of December, and they've crawled back into this wild card race now, and we'll see, how they do before the Olympic break in order of, kind of determining what it's going to look like for them moving forward here. But there hasn't been a whole lot of chatter about Andrew Brunette lately. Barry Trotz, he's obviously been criticized by Predators fans over the last year or so, given the way that the roster has worked out and the way that the team has been built and the record and all those things. How are we feeling if you're a Predators fan right now about Barry Trotz and about Andrew Brunette and about where things are going here? Because I think deep down, Joe, even though they have played better hockey, and I think you're more encouraged, obviously, by Stamkos, and you're more encouraged by, O'Reilly and the way that they've played, and they look like a competent hockey team over the last couple of months here. That long-term question, I think, still lingers in the background here. Where are they going? And is Barry Trotz going to be the guy that eventually gets them back to being competitive and competing for a championship? Is Andrew Brunette going to be the head coach that when they get through all this, they're going to be competitive and competing for a championship? I think the fundamental question in the franchise really hadn't changed all that much throughout the year, even though the team was so bad to begin the year, and now they've kind of gotten better over the last few weeks and months here. That still, to me, Joe, is the fundamental question here of where is this all going and how long is it going to take to get there? So I throw the question out to you. I throw the question out to Predators fans. How are we feeling right now about Barry Trotz, Andrew Brunette, and where this whole thing is headed here?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a prevailing question. The Brunette side of things, like you said, it is interesting. I mean, that's just sort of died down. And look, I think he does deserve a lot of credit for. And maybe he didn't look at it the same way. Or look, I know coaches all say they put on blinders. All you do, you just have to show up, do your job, and all that stuff. But I mean, everybody's a human being, right? So the outside chatter was very clear, and the expectation outside was, again, conventionally speaking, like the off season or early this season would have been it for him at almost any other place. Right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, that's just how people do things in this league. So I give them credit for just hanging in there. And again, they've played a lot better. They've turned things around. They've become a competitive team after being the worst team or right there among the worst teams through all that. So I think it's a good job by him. Obviously, it's like you're judging a coach, and you have to keep the roster in mind. They have had like the slow starts issue, right, and then playing better later. What can you do about that? But overall, I mean, I think that he's right now doing a good job. Trotz. We talked yesterday about the Saros deal. I mean, that's never like that's just it's. I think that's the biggest thing to criticize him on. And then, I think mixed messaging a little bit too, and sort of, again, the two timelines thing just hasn't really worked. I do, like we've had this argument in the past. I've had this argument at least, like with Stilly, and I do agree with him to some extent that, like, when it comes down to it, like his choices, his ability to make choices, and what he's been doing with the young guys and what the next generation looks like. I mean, that's if it's good. If it ends up, that he has a bunch of hits in a few years, couple years, 2-3 years, they are back with this new core that's really good. Well, then that's still like that's the most important part of all this, right? Because you knew you had to do that one way or the other. So I still think there's a lot of TBD with this question.
I think there is too, but I think they're asked this question 8 or 9 weeks ago, and I feel like Predators fans thought they had their answer, right? It's like, well, it's not going to be this coach. It ain't going to be Andrew Burnett that's the one that's bringing us out of this. And Barry Trotz, at that point, probably wasn't very popular in the Predators fan base either. And again, like they've played better hockey since then. They've gotten themselves back into a playoff race here. We'll see if they're able to actually punch their ticket and get into playoffs, or if by the time the deadline comes around, they start to sell off. But to me, those questions really haven't changed. Like, where is this all going, and how quickly are they going to get there? And that's the question I want to throw out to Predators fans today. How do we feel about that? How are we feeling about Barry Trotz and Andrew Burnett moving forward? Your big picture thoughts on the Predators and where this is all headed. We will get into that. We will get into Robert Saleh a little bit later in the show. Derek McKenzie coming up at 7:30. Looking ahead to the Preds and the Devils coming up tonight. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Taking your thoughts on the Preds. How do we feel about where all this is headed with the Predators? How are we feeling about Barry Trotz, Andrew Brunette? We are taking your thoughts on all of it at 615-737-1025. Let's head to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Dustin in Hopkinsville to the program. Dustin, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Good morning, guys. Yes, on the Preds, this stretch they've had, I'm really proud of how they've turned it around. But when they got to 20-20 and however many overtime wins, losses, whatever it is they had, I had in my head in the next 10 games, I'd like them to see them in the next 10 games be 3 wins above losses. So, essentially not 23-20, whatever that would be, but 3 more wins than losses. And 5 would be great, man. That would be awesome. But, I'm proud of this team, but they're kind of doing what I had in my head too before. I said they're going to do all this, and then they might kind of fizzle out and just break even for a while, and they may come back, or they may, I don't think they're going to go back to that just terrible play they're doing. It's really came around. But here's my thing. I don't want them to sit still at the deadline. And if they sell, I want them to sell the farm, because you're talking about most of our star players, Marchessault and Stamkos are both 35. Ryan O'Reilly is 34. Don't get me wrong; these guys got more hockey left, but how much? And when can you get your maximum for them? So either sell the farm and rebuild it right, and bring up the young guys and let them play the rest of the season, or go ahead and buy a player to help out Marchessault, or whatever you got to do, but don't just be mediocre. Be all in one way or the other.
Thank you, Dustin. Appreciate the call. Yeah, I mean, that's the interesting part about this too, Joe, is, they are playing better hockey. There's no doubt about it. Particularly, I mean, Stamkos has been on an absolute run. I mean, when you think about when he started scoring goals, and I don't remember the exact date of when this stat is, after he scored against Utah the other day, you started to look at it and it was like, man, since like late November or whatever it is, he's right up there with like Nathan McKinnon and Connor McDavid and all these ridiculous names in terms of like how many goals that he scored. So he's playing great. Riley obviously has been playing really well. Forsberg's been playing good. Yossi's been playing really well. But again, Joe, like, what do all those guys have in common? Those are your older guys, right? Like those are guys that are, they're not all like old, but they're older guys. Like they're veteran players. Luke Evangelista's had a nice year to this point. I would still count him as a younger player, obviously. You look at their back end right now. Blankenberg is not really young, but he's come in, he's played well. I think Perbix has been fine. Nick Hague, when he's been in there, has been fine. Like they made some additions this last offseason that have helped them a little bit. But, Svechkov, they put so much on him to begin the year. He hadn't been very good. Like, I think – I know he got hurt the other night, but I think in most years at this point, he'd probably been sent back down to Milwaukee by now. I mean, the schedule kind of is what it is, and there's some different things to go into that with the Olympic break this year. But in probably most years, he would have been sent back to Milwaukee by this point. So, yeah, they're playing better hockey. There's just not a whole lot of young guys doing it with them right now, which I guess that depends on the eye of the beholder, how you feel about that.
Yeah, and look, whenever we have this discussion, like, and this is years. It is years of this to some degree. I mean, it's not all that different. Yes, it has, different people in charge. But I mean, like P. Houston 87 on the YouTube chat. They've been in a, quote, competitive rebuild since 2020. It's getting old. Either fully rebuild or get off the pot. What this roster looks like at the start of next season will tell a lot. And look, again, people have been saying that for a long time. I get the idea of, we've talked about the other side of that, the business side of it, right?
Yeah.
We've talked about the downside of the teams that decide to do that, and then end up wandering through the wilderness for a long, long time. I mean, but also at some point, I think you get to the point where you don't have a choice. I mean, look, ideally at this point, you think about some of the guys who are elsewhere. I mean, some of them have done okay at other spots, but most of these guys who had high hopes 3-4 years ago really have fizzled, right? And that's what it comes down to, is that like they had a lot of picks for a while that just really weren't very good. And the forward drafting, we've talked about that ad nauseum too, So, I mean, Trotz, I do think he is accountable to the veterans and the locker room. And we talked about this yesterday. And I think that that's real. And I respect that. I get that. But also he's accountable to ownership that we don't know if they're going to look at his job the same way he has looked at Brunette's job. You kind of assume so because that's the culture of the Preds over decades, but we don't know that.
No, we don't. There's no doubt. Let's head back to our phone line. Welcome in Bob and Antioch to the program. Bob, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you. My questions are about Matthew Wood and Luke Evangelista. How do you feel about Wood's development thus far this season? And as far as Evangelista goes, what do you think his ceiling is? I think he looks like he might be headed, if he pops to his ability, maybe somebody like David Legwand, a serviceable top 6 forward. But I'm curious about your opinion about them. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Bob. Appreciate it. I'll start with Evangelista. I mean, Evangelista this year, I think for the most part, has been pretty good, right? Like, it's not putting up points every night, but you're talking about 38 points, 51 games, 7 goals, 31 assists. I think he's come in on the power play on that top unit, and I think he's looked really good there. And I think that unit has really taken off since he's come there. And yeah, I mean, a lot of that Stamkos just blasting it from the left circle, but some of that's been because Evangelista is getting in the puck and letting him blast it from the left circle. So I think he's been good. Like, is Luke Evangelista ever going to be a 75, 80 point guy? Probably not. I mean, maybe, but probably not. But I mean, right now, you're looking this year maybe at 55 points, maybe in the neighborhood of 60, 50 to 60 points. Like, based on where he was at the end of last year, Joe, I'll take that. Like, that's
all day.
Yeah. That's pretty good improvement from last year to this year. And, you're talking about a guy that's still 23 years old. So maybe there's some runway there for him to get better. So, in the long run, I'm feeling pretty good about the way that Evangelista has played this year. Wood is interesting, Joe, because he started so well. He started so well in the NHL that was like, wow. Look at Matthew Wood and the way that he's playing this year in the NHL. And I think what's happened with him, which is what happens, I think, a lot with rookies in the NHL, is he's kind of run into a wall a little bit here, right? Like you're especially this year, but even in a normal year with a rookie, you're playing more than you've ever played, right? On a more consistent basis. You're playing every other day for the most part. And this year it's even more extreme. Like, it feels like you're playing 3 out of 4 nights basically all the time. And I just think he's run into a little bit of a wall here. He's not creating the same amount of chances that he was. He's got 8 goals, 15 points in 42 games. I still feel good about what he's ultimately going to end up being. But I just think right now, Joe, you're seeing him go through a little bit of kind of that rookie wall experience. And I don't think the schedule's doing him any favors.
Yeah, I think his physicality is not going away, and I think he has the look of someone who I think can be a part of your future. Obviously there was a time there where it was like, whoa, look at this guy, and I think you just laid it out there. You have to account for that, and then you hope that he figures it out, and they will have. This is a weird year with the Olympics and all that stuff, so. I'm with you. I like how he looks. I think that he's got a chance. Evangelista, like what Bob just said, serviceable top 6. That's great. They need some people where they can count on and say, hey, this guy actually can be in the top 6 and help us be a winning hockey team. Once we get on the other side, whatever that looks like. And so I think that's been a really good development for them. Texter says, commit to a plan, no pen or pencil, single plan and execute. If he doesn't make moves one way or the other, he needs to go. He spent the money, spent the draft capital. Now we're no better than a fringe team. Yeah. Well, I understand that. I don't know. Like, does Trotz look at it that way? Does Trotz, is that, do you think that's possibly coming where it's like, okay, it's a young team. Again, you still have highly paid, still really good players on the team. So So it's like, should you not still, here and there, even if it's just filling in the fringes, try to help them win in any way while you're hoping for the young guys to come up and develop? That's the hard thing to me.
Well, and then the fundamental question is, how good are these young guys, right? Like, how good are these young guys going to be? And that's unfortunately, I think, an answer that we won't really have here for the next couple of years. So in the meantime, you're doing a whole lot of hoping at that point that your young guys are going to end up being really good.
You need to see like flickers of light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. 615-737-1025, our phone number. A lot more of your thoughts to get to on the Preds. We will do that. We have the best and worst things in sports coming up at 6:45. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game, taking your thoughts on the Predators at 615-737-1025, our phone number. We'll have the best and worst things in sports coming up at 645. We will get into Robert Saleh as he is introduced as Titans head coach at his press conference later today, coming up in the 7 o'clock hour. So we will get into all that. A lot of different thoughts on this on the YouTube chat, on the text line. Keep those coming at 615-737-1025. You know, that's the interesting part of all this is, Joe, we've had now a couple of different regimes in here from, the end of the Poyle tenure to into Barry Trotz. Obviously, there was John Hines at the end of the Poyle tenure, and now Andrew Burnett is the head coach. But it does feel like in some way we've been having the same sort of discussion around them for a while. I mean, Barry Trotz has talked about he's been resistant to the idea of just like the complete and total tear down where you just trade everything basically on your NHL roster that has a pulse and you start playing with a bunch of 18-year-olds out there. And I don't think that's ever going to be the way they operate. He's made it clear that he doesn't think that that's a very good idea. And look, there are examples around the league where that hasn't been a very good idea. Now, I think if you're a Predators fan, you look at that and you say, okay, well, let's look at San Jose. San Jose was completely awful for the last couple of years. They ended up drafting Macklin Celebrini and Will Smith. And Celebrini especially, I mean, it looks like he's going to be a generational player. Like he's putting up some numbers that are like reminiscent of Sidney Crosby early in his career. And I'm not saying he's like exactly Sidney Crosby, but those are the type of numbers that dude's putting up early in his career. So like you look at that and you're like, it sure be nice to have one of those guys if you could land a Macklin Celebrini type of player. And we've talked about the lottery, like the NHL draft lottery. I mean, the Predators could lose every game in an 82-game season, and it's still no guarantee that they're going to get the number one overall pick. I mean, last year the Predators were the third worst record in the league. Then they got screwed in the draft lottery, and they ended up picking fifth, right? So there's no magic formula to that. But I do think that there's a significant portion of the Predators fan base that is like, we keep having this same conversation every year. And last year, probably a little bit different because they were so out of it and so bad for all the year. But this year, they're kind of right back to where they've been, Joe, which is right there on the cusp, right there on the fringe, maybe either slightly in the playoffs or slightly outside of the playoffs. And it leaves you wondering, okay, well, what does that mean? Where do you go? Are you building something here, or are you just going to be stuck here in the middle for the foreseeable future with no real path towards getting toward the top? And I think that is the root of where Predators fans and the frustration comes from, which frankly, I don't blame them for.
I don't either. And the thing is, this is, again, we've talked about this over years, and it's just like you just can't time it. You can't guarantee it. You can't do anything, but like you have to get lucky. I mean, all these teams to some extent have gotten lucky. Now, sure, sometimes, there's multiple players in a particular draft, and so you feel good about your chances, regardless of how the lottery works out. But I mean, it's just getting one of those players or two of those players. Most of the teams that we're looking at now, that happened to them at some point. It's just really hard to engineer that. And so, you have to have people you found who overachieve relative to their draft status. And like a Yossi, who's a second round pick, there you go. Right. I mean, second round pick, going to be, you're the greatest player in your franchise and probably going to be in the Hockey Hall of Fame, as we've talked about. You need stories like that. But, you also, so if you hit consistently in the middle and late first round over a time period, what does that mean? Because they didn't. I mean, and that's the thing. So how different would things be now? They still wouldn't have one of those guys we're talking about, right? But there are other teams in this league too that have been successful because they've got the depth and they've got, their middle six is really strong. I mean, like, bottom line is you have to get more good players And I totally agree with you. Like, they're not going to do the thing where, because Trotz, probably the thing he says more than anything is like, he totally does not believe in young guys coming up to this league to get their ass kicked over and over again and lose confidence. Right.
Right.
Like, you can find examples of probably guys doing that and getting through it and coming on the other side better for it. But I think he's been in this league a long time. He's been in hockey a long time. He's seen a lot of examples of guys who are brought up too early and it hurts them. So it's just not going to happen. So all of which like kind of brings you back to, they're kind of going to be somewhere in that middle. And I get that fans are sick of it, but also I've heard from Predators fans this year who were like, it's been fun the last several weeks watching a team that looks like has a chance to win on nights, and that's but then other fans are like, no, don't feel that way, because we're just never going to get out of this vortex of mushy middle.
Well, and the other part of this is like, you're hoping Brady Martin turns into one of those guys, right? Like, you just drafted Brady Martin top 5, and you're hoping he turns into one of those type of players.
He has to.
He might. We'll see. I like him, and he started the year here this year, and that was good to see. And I like Brady Martin. Problem is, he's barely played this year. Like, he's played 13 games in the OHL. He's got 16 points in those 13 games, but then he played in the World Juniors and he got hurt. So, he'll be back at some point here, but he hadn't played a whole lot so far. So, I think Predators fans are hoping that he's a part of the solution sooner rather than later, right? Like, I think there's the hope that, he made the team out of camp this year. He goes back to junior, and then next year, maybe he makes the team out of camp and he's ready to stay, right? Like, that's the hope. I don't know if it's going to play out that way, but like that, you're hoping that your top 5 pick that you have, that you haven't had very much of, by the way, is ready to go and is ready to contribute for you in the not too distant future as a part of this whole thing.
Yeah. That's and again, when I say must, like, I'm not saying it has to be like a superstar, but he has to be like a very important and very key part of your future. You know,
he's got to be a core piece.
Yeah, core piece. And if he's not, then there's a draft you can go back and second guess, because some of those guys who went after him are, I bet you will be, right. So that's like. So then if you throw that in with everything else that we've seen so far, then it's just a failed GM tenure, right? At some point, like I don't know what else you say about it. He is utterly critical, and of course there has to be a lot more on top of that. P. Houston, again, this is another part of this conversation that keeps coming up, but he's like, look at Detroit and Buffalo, like their wagons this year. And then my response was, okay, well, how long did they suck? So imagine that here. That's the thing too. It's like, okay, so imagine that level of wandering the desert here. What does that mean? What's that look like?
It's not good. We've never experienced it. Other than when they were an expansion team and it took them, I can't remember if it was year 5 or year 6 before they got in the playoffs, but somewhere in that neighborhood. But that's a different time. It's like you're building a franchise literally from scratch at that point, right? So it just kind of is what it is. But since then, like, they've not really had to go through that. And look, I also hear those who say, well, you know what? If you do it right, you don't have to go through that. And I agree with that. Like, if you make the right decisions, you don't have to go through that. But sometimes you don't make the right decisions. Like, Detroit's the interesting one there, because Detroit has been bad for a while and they never got any luck in the lottery, right? Like, they never got one of those top guys.
Which, by the way, if the league was going to, fix things, that probably would have happened at some point. I know everybody talks about Chicago, but yeah.
Exactly. So, like, Buffalo has had a couple of cracks at it in the top. And look, part of their struggles is their own incompetence. Like, they did draft Jack Eichel, and then they totally screwed it up around him, right?
Yeah,
like Jack Eichel was good enough where that should have worked in Buffalo, and then they just failed him. Yeah,
like Brent's talking about. So what about Dallas, for example? Like they haven't done the, well, Robertson's a good example of where the heck did he go? That's a diamond in the rough pick. The Preds could have had him. A lot of teams could have had him. But no, you're right. There are different ways to build up really good teams. The Preds had a team that was wins from winning it all. So they swing a great trade for a Forsberg. They did have a really good drafted forward in like Fiala, but he got hurt early in that run.
Yep.
They made the trade. Excuse me, my goodness, the trade for Johansson there was huge, right? He also was hurt, by the way, at the end, but still, like that was a huge part of them building this team. They didn't do that with any.
Well, they had the best top 4 defense in the league.
Right, they had the best D core.
Yeah.
You had a 4th round pick in Arvidsson. I mean, there's like, you can.
There's a lot to like.
Yeah, there's ways to like do this without getting Connor Bedard, but most of the teams that you look around the league have someone or someones like that.
Yeah, and Tampa had Stamkos in the lottery, right? And he was a big part of what they did. But they also found Kucherov in the second round, man.
Right.
Like, I mean, sometimes you just gotta have some scouting in there that is able to identify things that other teams just don't identify. And some of it's just luck, right? Like nobody thought Nikita Kucherov was going to turn into what he turned into,
and Braden Point,
or
for that matter.
And Braden Point, or they wouldn't have been drafted where they're drafted. And yet here we are. And Kucherov at the age of 32 has got 80 points in 47 games. I mean, the guy's unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to have some stuff like that. You have to. And they just haven't. Again, this predates Barry Trotz too, but at forward, as we've discussed, I mean, it's just, and that's where you get into like, okay, I think that's where you can get into like, okay, does more of an overhaul need to be really looked at when it comes to how they do things?
Yep, it's something that's going to be considered. I always go back and look at this too, and this is not just it's not just a Predators thing, because the 2011 draft often comes out. That's where Kucherov was taken. So Kucherov was taken 58th overall in the 2011 draft. You look up 6 spots ahead of that at 52 overall, the Predators were selecting. It was Mika Salamaki. Those are a little bit different, right? And again, it's not the Predators. Like, the Flames had the 57th overall pick. They took Tyler Wotherspoon, who I think played 30 NHL games right before Kucherov. That stings when you go back and look at it.
Yeah. That Salamaki could fly around, though, man.
He could.
That guy could land a check, let me tell you.
He could. Well, the best and worst things in sports coming up next. We'll take your best things, your worst things on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game.
The best and worst of the sports week. Now on Robby and Rexrode.
On ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
This is the worst.
You look like you're feeling sorry for yourself.
He's one of one. He is him.
This is a Coke bottle. It's not a crystal ball.
When I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous.
Okay, let's go.
It is time for the best and worst things in sports. We'll take your best things, your worst things on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Rexrode, kick us off with your best and worst things in the world of sports. We have another mute from Rexrode. Mute number 2 in the first hour. We'll see if we can get to 5 by the end of the show.
I honestly don't remember muting. Why would I mute? Oh, no, that's right. I sneezed. Okay, so it was a smart mute. And yet a very bad unmute. I don't know what's going on today. I'm sorry. It won't happen again, except it will happen again. All right, my best is going to be controversial, but actually it's a little bit inspired by, we got one texter in particular who's like, he called us again, radio jock sniffers, talking about the big mistake with Vrabel. I'm like, dude, we're not even talking about Vrabel right now. Like, calm down. But my best in sports is Mike Vrabel and the Patriots getting to the Super Bowl. One, because selfishly it creates a lot of discussion around here, and we'll continue to have it. And there's good discussion on both sides. But also, there's a lot of guys who went with him with this, who were here, and I do feel like that's worth Titans fans to consider. A lot of players who did some good stuff here, coaches. There's a coach battling cancer right now, and Harold Lander, who did a lot of great things here. Stretch, everybody loves Stretch, so it's not just about Vrabel, but it's a tremendous achievement. And at this point, once you've done what they have done in the postseason, I think we can stop talking about the regular season. The regular season helped them get to a good position, and that's what happens. You play a last place schedule, and you have that kind of turnaround, then you can have a benefit. But it's an incredible achievement, and I think he should be coach of the year. My worst, I hate to, you guys let me go first, but my worst is the Belichick thing. And we're going to talk about it later. There's some interesting stuff that's come out about that. But when it comes down to it, I think he should be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't think it's like this absolute end of the world situation some people do, like he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. But it reflects poorly on voting. I do think, again, we'll talk. There's some interesting stuff that Karharsky talked about yesterday that some people will reject as an excuse. I think some voters actually, it kind of makes sense the way they explained it. But ultimately, Bill Belichick should be in the Hall of Fame, the first chance that he can get in the Hall of Fame.
Ian Safar, your best and worst things in the world of sports.
My best this week, I'm going to go with Sammy D in Seattle. Sam Darnold.
There we go.
Yeah. Just, a lot of talk this offseason about Sammy D and Sam Darnold and Minnesota. They kind of messed that whole situation up. They still don't have a quarterback. Maybe it's just I don't know how much of it is Sam Darnold, carrying Seattle. Feels like a pretty good overall team. But just a lot of talk about Sam Darnold this year. So he made it to the Super Bowl. I'll put Sammy D on there this week. I feel like he deserves that.
There you go.
Worst, a lot of talk about the Pro Bowl. And so I'm just going to go with all-star games in general. I don't know. We've talked about it. It's a big summer off-season topic. How do you fix all-star games in all sports? And there's no real answer. But the just continued downward trend of all-star games in general will get my worst this week.
There you go. My best in sports, Blades Brown, Nashville born, in the final pairing with Scotty Scheffler this past weekend at 18 years old.
Nice.
In a PGA tournament. That's pretty cool, man. 18 years old. I think he started his high school career at Brentwood Academy, and he's moved away since then to try to get, more on the golf circuit. But born in Nashville, 18 years old, ends up in the final grouping of a PGA event with Scotty Scheffler. It's pretty freaking sweet, man. So
Tally-ho!
congratulations. Yes. Congratulations to Blades Brown for his success this past weekend. And I think you'll be hearing probably a whole lot more from him in the world of golf over the next few years.
What an awesome name, too.
Yeah, it is awesome. Blades Brown. So my worst thing, Charles Bediaco in Alabama, which I guess I could also combo into the best thing of Rick Barnes in Tennessee taking them to church and beating them. But just this whole thing with Nate Oates, and I think it's a perfect symbolism, Joe, of how hypocritical these college coaches are. I mean, they just whine and complain all the time about all these rules that are going on and how hard it is. And then Nate Oates is like, but, far be it from me to deny this kid another chance to play in college basketball. And for him to go out there and lose immediately, I thought was hilarious. That's my worst thing in sports.
Yeah, that's a great one. Of course, then they destroyed a decent Missouri team, and I am fearful that like he's going to really change things for significantly to the better for them. But
just get Barnes back in there after him; he'll be fine.
Yeah, big win for Tennessee last night, by the way.
Yeah,
at Georgia in overtime. I
watched the end of that actually.
That's a significant win for Barnes, and I mean, they might Nate Ament. I mean, it keeps every game. It's like watch out for this kid. I mean, people have dogged him all year, but sometimes you're a skinny freshman, you're not ready to just dominate, be Kevin Durant right away. But he's pretty freaking good.
I almost had a quick. I almost mentioned as my best, Robbie, the hopefully destruction downward of the Live Golf.
Yes,
we've had some defections.
It's crumbling.
It's crumbling beneath them.
I'm looking forward to that.
I am too. I think we're slowly on the path to getting all the best players back together all the time. So that would be great. So we'll see what happens on that front. One texter says the best is Vandy's evisceration of Kentucky. The grinding hurt at the end of the game was Adolph Rupp turning over in his grave there. So anytime Vanderbilt could smoke Kentucky in basketball, that's good. Trevor offering a worst is the Browns in general, but the best is Jim Schwartz basically telling them to pound sand. We're going to get into that and a little bit later in the show. But boy, the Browns seem to have made Jim Schwartz a little mad with how they've handled their head coaching search. Chase from White Bluff says the best is the Giannis rumors to the Dubs. What do you make of that, Rexrode?
Oh, well, Chase is a fellow Dubs fan. I mean, I'm here for it, man. I'm here for it. I don't know. I'd love to see how that would look with Giannis, and Steph together. That sounds pretty good to me because other than that, they're just a fringe playoff team. Real quick, another worst I have real fast on the Vandy front. There was like someone, I think it was like maybe someone who covers Kentucky who had a tweet. It was like, something about like losing by this much to the worst program in SEC history, and it's like actually like I think Vanderbilt's like the fourth winningest program in SEC basketball. Vanderbilt basketball is not Vanderbilt football. We just talked about the F troop yesterday, so learn your history, kids.
Yeah, come on, kids. All right, coming up next, we will get into Robert Saleh. He is being introduced as Titans head coach today. His press conference coming up later this afternoon. And now that we know who his OC is, how convinced are we that he is the coach to turn this ship around here in Tennessee? We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Thursday morning, live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. We'll have Predators assistant coach Derek McKenzie with us later this hour at 7:30. They are back in action tonight out east, taking on the New Jersey Devils. So we'll get his thoughts on all that. The Rob rant coming up later this hour. And Joe, later today, Robert Saleh will be officially introduced as Titans head coach. He will have his introductory press conference, and looking forward to that and seeing what he's got to say coming up a little bit later today. Joe, we spent the last couple of days talking about Brian Daboll and what that was going to look like. And now that we know that he's the OC hire, we talked about the staff that they're building out to this point. There is a lot of experience on this staff when you factor in Daboll and obviously Bones Fossil, and they hired wide receiver coach Greg Lewis yesterday. So he's got some experience doing that job. So there's a lot of experience that the Titans have on the early part of this staff here. How convinced are we that Robert Saleh is the coach that is going to turn this all around for the Tennessee Titans? They are on an impressive run right now of total ineptitude, and you don't have to tell Titans fans that. They've lived it over the last few years. You are excited about Cam Ward and some of the things that he did this season. You're excited about the cap space that you've got. I think most Titans fans are excited about their general manager and Mike Borgonzi and the opportunity that they're going to have with him, maybe to build the roster and make the right choices. But ultimately, like, it's Saleh's going to have to be a big part of this too. So, John, you know, when they hired Robert Saleh, you know, I said this. I said I have an open mind to it. I wasn't necessarily over the moon about it. Like, I think, frankly, some people who are over the moon about it are maybe taking some liberties when it comes to his time in New York. I mean, the record is what the record is in his time in New York. So I'm not closing my mind that he's going to end up being a really good head coach in the National Football League. But I'm not overly excited about this hire either. Now that Daboll is in the fold, I feel better about it. I think that's a good opportunity. As Kuharski said yesterday, probably the most experienced offensive coordinator that they've had, just purely making the hire of an offensive coordinator. So, Joe, I turn it to you. I turn it to Titans fans. Now that we know what the OC is and what that situation looks like for the Titans, how are we feeling about Saleh and the opportunity for him now to turn this thing around and get this team back to being a team that competes in the AFC?
Well, I think that with this organization, cautious optimism should probably be about the ceiling right now. I'm not saying that it is. And if you feel better than that, good for you. But I think cautiously optimistic is a fair way to feel right now. You know, you're talking about two guys who failed as head coaches for a variety of reasons, and you can pick through all that and give them as much or as little blame as you want. But they did also have that experience. So again, I think the OC hire, I mean, relative to the candidates at their respective positions, the OC hire to me is better. Okay, right? Like, the OC hire is like, you got someone who has been a head coach, who has been tied to multiple impressive quarterback development stories, who has worked for some of the best coaches in all of football. So I think that's a top OC hire on paper. Whereas Saleh was my favorite, before the cycle got crazy. But it's still, you're still talking about someone who has demonstrated excellence as a coordinator and not excellence as a head coach, does have the experience. Combine them, I mean, it's pretty good. Like, I mean, I think there should be some excitement about that. And like I said yesterday, a little bit off what we're talking about here, but I am fascinated by the big personalities of those two guys. Because it kind of is, especially with Saleh calling plays. I mean, it kind of feels like you got your offensive head coach and your defensive head coach. Do people like that or not?
Yeah, I mean, the distinguished gentleman's like on the YouTube chat right now. He's like, "You're a Packers fan, bro." It's like, oh, well, that's fine. All Titans fans told me the last 3 years before either one of these guys had accomplished a damn thing in their job, Rand Carthon, Brian Callahan, oh, how great. What a great hire Rand Carthon was. What a great hire Brian Callahan is before they had ever done anything in the NFL. So maybe, how'd that work out, by the way? How'd it work out with those two guys? All I'm saying is.
Are you pre-ranting right now?
Yeah. All I'm saying is you guys, like, maybe learn how to be a little bit patient here and wait and see before you just go off anointing people, right? Like, look, the fact is, not your feelings, the fact is Robert Saleh has been a bad head coach in the NFL before, right? Now, that doesn't mean that he's always going to be a bad head coach in the NFL, and that doesn't mean that the New York Jets aren't a total tire fire and are maybe the primary reason why everything fails there, right? Like, their owner is atrocious. I understand all those things. But, like, I'm sorry. If you're sitting here expecting me to act like Robert Saleh, like it's a guaranteed great hire, like it's an automatic success that they've hired Robert Saleh and this is absolutely going to work out. Yeah, I'm not willing to do that. I have an open mind to it. I'm hopeful that he can be a really good head coach in this league, that he's learned some things from stop one to stop two. But there has been way too much in this fan base over the last few years of just saying, oh, yes, it's all great now, before actually letting something play out.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but I feel like I don't know that makes this like an exclusive fan base, like
I'm not saying it does.
You want to believe that, and of course, with these fans, they've been served up so many bleep sandwiches, that that you want to believe. I mean, look, I think what you're talking about, the dynamic you're talking about, this is where, with the Vrabel discussion, it does, because there were people who was like, it was basically picking Rand over Vrabel. Not that it was necessarily a power struggle between those two. I don't think that Rand Carthon wanted Vrabel out. I think he's, but that was the choice, right? It was like, we're going to turn this over to Rand. We're going to let him find our coach and get out of here, Mike. And that's where, that's where, yes, the Titans did big time blow it. And look, there was a lot of excitement about Rand and a lot of excitement. I mean, I was definitely, I'll raise my hand. I mean, we can go back and probably find audio clips. Like I was optimistic about both after hearing from them initially, they both had great pressers. So
but that's my only point. Goes can we learn from that? Like, can we learn from that as a community here? Like, I understand. I'm not saying that you can't be excited. You can be excited. That's fine. But like, I've seen way too much of, well, this is the best Titans coaching staff of all time. It's like, is it? Like, there's a head coach in charge who's 20 and 35 or whatever he is as the head coach. Again, that doesn't mean that he can't end up being a good head coach in the league. But can we hold off on like the greatest Titans coaching staff of all time and see them, I don't know, maybe coach a few games first?
Yeah, like on paper, yeah, like I like the experience and all this stuff. But like Distinguished Gentleman is like, this is clearly a better coaching staff than we've had in a5 But
that's what I'm talking about. You just had a coaching staff with Mike Vrabel. You had Mike Vrabel, Arthur Smith, Dean Pease together as a coaching staff 5 years ago.
Right. So what's a while? I mean, I guess if you want to say this is clearly a better staff than what Callahan had, okay. I mean, I can buy that because now, again, Bill Callahan was the belle of the ball, and talk about experience. And I mean, it's amazing too, seeing like on the flip side of this, Titans fans who were like, he was total trash here. He was overrated. And it's like, it certainly did not, he did not snap his fingers and create a great offensive line. There's no doubt. I don't know that totally invalidates his entire career, but I'll listen to this. Looks a lot better on paper. Like there's more achievement, experience, all that stuff on this staff than especially if you want to talk about the first Callahan staff, because of course then he gets fossil and improves it a lot, and he's still here. So if you want to compare this to the staff he initially put together, I would agree with you. But yeah, like what's a while? Like, the guy in the Super Bowl had a whole bunch of those guys here back then, not that long ago.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Like, yes, is this a better staff than Brian Callahan's staff? God, I hope so. Oh my goodness. Because if it's not, we got a big problem. But that shouldn't be the bar. Like getting better than Brian Callahan's staff. Go look around the NFL. How many coaching staffs are better than Brian Callahan's staff? Pretty good amount of them, man. So that's what I'm saying here. Like Saleh, I'm intrigued by. I really am. Like I think he's clearly a really good defensive mind. I think he's clearly gifted at connecting with players. All that's good. I like that. But his head coaching record is what it is. And I think some people are acting like, well, it's just all the New York Jets. We're going to find out. Like this is what did he learn from stop one to stop two? I've been talking about that from the moment that he got hired. Because I think if you're approaching this of, it was just the Jets, that's a huge mistake to make.
I don't disagree. We got a lot of good thoughts on this.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll continue this discussion coming up next. We got Derek McKenzie coming up at 7:30. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode 1025, the game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Derek McKenzie, Predators assistant coach, will be with us at 7:30. Got the Rob Rant coming up later this hour as well. Taking your thoughts in the meantime, 615-737-1025. We said it earlier, but repeat it. Charles Robinson normally with us at 8 o'clock on Thursdays. He will move to tomorrow. Got some scheduling stuff going on there, so we will have Charles on the show coming up tomorrow. Taking your thoughts on Robert Saleh and the Titans. Robert Saleh being introduced as the next Titans head coach today, as his official press conference is this afternoon. So taking your thoughts on all that. Joe, one texter says, I believe the optimism comes from teams like the Bears with a coach that comes in right away and turns the team around with a young quarterback. Every franchise has fans like this, either really positive or really negative. The Titans believe they have a huge upgrade from a team that had zero experience in coaching. Their OC wasn't even the second option to call plays last year, which is fine. Not calling plays, which is all good.
No problem. No problem at all. I mean, I got to read this text here. So we've had a few bad years. It has been rough, in all caps, around here. We're freezing. We ain't got no power. Damn, give us a few days to be happy. We got 2 serious head coaching candidates on our team. That's a good thing. Can't you let people be happy, Robby?
I have no problem with people being happy. I have a problem with saying, oh, well, this is absolutely going to work. Like, can we not learn our lesson from that? Like we're talking about proven commodities here. Like the distinguished gentleman says, proven commodities. That's fine. Well, is Robert Saleh a proven commodity at head coach? God, I hope not. Because if he is, he's 20-36. That's all I'm saying. Like, I have no problem with optimism. I have no problem with you being happy. I have no problem with you being excited. But stop acting like it's just absolutely going to work. That's all I'm saying.
Do you know who was a proven commodity who did not have that record? A certain coach by the name of Ken Wisenhunt.
Oh, yeah.
Again, I can't speak to the level of optimism and excitement there was about Ken Wisenhunt. But I remember when the Titans hired him, I was like, no, that's pretty good, Titans. Yeah. Super Bowl coach.
Yeah.
Right? Come on.
Amazing to think about, but yes.
Right. So it's just like, it is really hard. You can find a whole bunch of examples of the non-experienced staff, unproven staff, the unknown is undefeated, and sometimes it goes terribly, like it did with Callahan here. But there's more examples of that working in the league in the last decade than not working.
Yeah,
right?
I agree. Like, I just, again, like Saleh has to have learned. We've heard Zach Rosenblatt talk about this on DVD and at other places at the Athletic too. Like, it wasn't just, it's just Woody Johnson and everything the Jets touch turned to dust. Like, he had some problems his first time around as a head coach. Now, can you learn from those and not have those same problems in your second stint as a head coach? And yeah, I mean, obviously, like, the quarterback's going to be a big part of it, right? I mean, I understand that in New York, you're talking about Zach Wilson, who's bad. And then, they go get Aaron Rodgers, and he blew out his Achilles 4 plays into his tenure the first year. And he wasn't the quarterback long enough in the second stint to really get a feel for it. I mean, what were they when they fired Saleh in Rodgers' second year? 2-3, something like that?
It was early. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it was really early into the year. So, I understand all that. Like, the quarterback part of it is a big deal here. And I do feel good about Dable coming in and working with Cam Ward here. I just am really interested to see, and it's the same point I brought up since October. Some of these guys that get second stints as a head coach, it's going to become painfully obvious that they're not good head coaches in the league. Some of them will be. Some of them will get that second opportunity, and they will be really good in their second stop. And you just got to hope that Robert Saleh fits into the latter part of that category. But to act like it's crazy that he could be the first part is where I take issue with this whole thing.
Well, and I keep calling for this, and they're not doing the work but I'd love to see like a more comprehensive list of the second chance coaches or retread coaches who failed initially. We always talk about the big ones, non-Hall of Famer Belichick and Pete Carroll as failed head coaches who then went on to have success. And there aren't that many other examples people are introducing, and I'm kind of racking my brain for more. I'd love to see. I'd read something that was breaking down the success rate. It doesn't seem that it's very high. I think there's a lot more of the former of what you just said, where it's like there are some coaches who are just better as coordinators, are really good. That's their vibe. They'll give me this room, give me basically, half the team, and give me this part of the team, and let me go, and it's perfect. And then you get to all the crap that goes with being a head coach, and that is probably the biggest red flag on Saleh, is all the crap that went with being a head coach. And I understand New York is different. It is different. It's a massive press corps, and so there's a lot of people, trying to distinguish themselves, and so you have a lot of stuff to deal with. But the text to the radio guy and trying to find out who the mole is in the building, like that's stuff you don't have to worry about as a coordinator, and so you can excel as a coordinator. Now, if you're him, you probably also say, this will be nice. There's like 10 people who are always at the press conferences, like it'll
He's gonna
be
bug Kuharski's phone.
Well, that's the thing. Then he's also going to have to have Kuharski banned from the building. So as soon as he figures that out, the quicker he figures that out, the better off he'll be. But no, I mean, it's some people, and it's very possible that Robert Saleh is just going to be a hell of a coordinator of this league, and that's what this job is going to tell everyone. He's a coordinator. You hope not, but it is possible. Again, it's like this pairing it's very much. It feels just like, okay, Saleh, you got the defense. You're the head coach, but the defense is yours. Dayball, the offense is yours. It could work out well. And again, if one side is way underperforming relative to the other side, then that gets interesting with two guys who have been head coaches before.
We'll be joined by Predators assistant coach Derek McKenzie coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Thursday morning. The Preds are back in action tonight, out east again, taking on the New Jersey Devils. And to help us talk more about that, we head to our phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com and welcome in Predators assistant coach Derek McKenzie to the program. Derek, good morning. How are you?
I'm good, guys. How you doing?
Doing awesome, man.
Good.
Appreciate you taking time to be with us. So, Derek, you guys get the point last time out against Boston, taking on another very talented New Jersey team tonight on the road. How are you feeling right now about where your guys' game is as a team heading into this one?
Well, obviously, we're playing really good hockey to get ourselves back in the conversation. I think as a group over the last couple of days, collectively, the consensus is that, things have probably slipped just a little bit. That's going to happen during, a season. I think it's great that, we've been able to, talk about it a little bit, address some of the things. And, going into tonight, obviously, really good skating team. So we're going to have to be, sharp early and make a few little adjustments to kind of get us rolling again.
What are some of those things, Derek, that needed to be addressed?
Well, I think just the little things sometimes. You talk about, stick battles. You talk about, just some of the details in the neutral zone. I thought really our neutral zone was excellent against Boston. Gave us a chance to kind of win the game. To be quite honest, probably deserved better in that one, right? So you're looking for little moments in a game to kind of get them up, that momentum rolling, not only in that game, but moving forward. It obviously would have been nice to get 2 points. Thought we deserved it. We didn't get it. So now the concern and the consensus is just that, we've got to move on, have a short-term memory. Didn't exactly finish the way we wanted to, but I did think that our game kind of was building. We just got to carry it into tonight.
I mean, Derek, you obviously played in this league for a long time. There's a guy like O'Reilly right now who's 34 years old. He's going to be 35, I think, next week. 51 points in 52 games. We know about, the work habits and just everything that he means to the team. But just on the ice, as you watch him this year, what stands out to you about the year that he's having and just him and his career? How has he been able to stay as productive as he is as long as he's been doing it in this league?
Well, I mean, obviously from a coach's perspective, there's some things that, you just can't teach. And Ryan's clearly got a hockey IQ that's, probably in that 2 percentile in the league. And that just, continually puts him in the right places at the right time. So you start from there, I think top 5 percentile for sure of like sticks. If you just watch his hand-eye and how he uses that tool, I mean, you kind of take it for granted at times where, you figure we all have one and we all know how to use one, but there is a skill to finding ways to get pucks back quicker than others. And I think he does an excellent job of that. I mean, for a guy, that's not getting any younger, for a guy that might not be, in some other categories like skating in the top 5 percentile, it is just quite amazing that every night, he plays against the top lines. It can be McDavid or McKinnon or, tonight it'll be Hughes, who's a pretty graceful skater. And if you find a way to outcompete them and ultimately, play better hockey on most nights than a lot of those guys. So he's been, a huge piece of the puzzle. You address the stuff on and off the ice, his work ethic. I think for us as coaches, and it's probably someone alluded to before, is just managing him, managing his work ethic, managing his ice time. He wants to be out there every second shift. He wants to be out for 2 hours in practice. I think the staff, right from our strength and conditioning guys to the coaches and the communication that everyone's had, has done a really good job of managing that this year. And I think ultimately that's why you're seeing some success on the ice.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask about off the ice, like you just said there, you just laid out for us. Obviously, the work ethic is legendary from the moment he got here, and of course, at previous stops. I mean, people talk about that. But so his impact on younger players, obviously, then as a leader by example. But what about beyond that, and like his voice in the room? Like how does that fit in with the other leaders on the team, and how does that impact the young guys?
Well, I think in his instance, it's probably less is more at times. Like he's not necessarily the most rah guy. And again, I'm only speculating a little bit. I can talk obviously a little bit more candidly about on the bench in situations where, we've been stung with a couple goals. You're down 2-0, as we have been more often than we wanted to be this year. I think in those moments, that's where, it's one thing to say it. It's another thing to convince guys that we can do it. It's a third thing to actually go out and help accomplish it. And I think that's where obviously his experience and the respect that, he has with the guys in the dressing room, it's just something that seems to translate more often than none. And, you're not going to get the result every time, but that's when I think, he's at his best and his most, is really valuable to our team, is just calming those young guys, convincing those young guys, and then going out and executing some of that. And as we know, we've had as many comebacks as anybody in the league this year. I think he's been a huge part of that.
So, Derek, I mean, it's obviously been a tough year from March or so from the standpoint of, the injuries. And he talked last week about how, it's been tough to stay healthy and get healthy and all those things. So as he's kind of working his way back here and has been back in here for the past few games, what do you think about where he is? And what do you think about just kind of where his game is and where it could be ultimately going if he is able to get in there, get some traction, and stay healthy?
Yeah, well, I mean, Johnny can be a really effective guy. I mean, I had an opportunity to play with him for a few years in Florida. And, I think right now, his game is building. Obviously, it was a tough stretch for him and missing 14 games. And when you can't skate the way you want to skate and, you're in pain, I mean, it's a difficult situation. So I think, he seems to, from what I can see, seems to be moving a lot better. When you can start moving better, you start putting yourself in better places. You have that little extra time and space, just enough to obviously get off that shot that can be very dangerous and has been very dangerous for him throughout the years. Combine that with the fact that he's had a really good attitude as far as, where he plays in the lineup. I think, you look right now, the last few games playing with McCarron and Smith. I mean, those are two guys that just every night are going to work as hard as they can. Obviously Smith, a really strong, quick skater who, sometimes it's nice to have a guy who can finish on your line. So you're kind of hoping that that's a bit of the chemistry there as far as, let those guys get in on the forecheck, let them dig, let them come up with some pucks. And then you have a guy that was given a little bit of time and opportunity, he can finish for it. And if that starts to click, then you have a line that not only can play against top lines, but that contributes with that secondary offense, which is so important to a lot of teams.
Matthew Wood, we were talking about him earlier in the show, Derek, and obviously he's been nicked up some this year and things like that. Had some really great stretches during the season. Is the quote unquote the rookie wall? Is that part of the story with him right now? Where do you think he is?
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be a very good hockey player in this league for a long time. I think, you see it time and time again with the young guys. They come in and, the adrenaline's high and things go right and they get off to a really good start. And then teams start to notice you. Your matchups get a little bit more difficult and, a little bit of that puck luck goes away. In saying that, you see a lot of guys come in and not be able to have those moments early as well. So we can talk about, a bit of that hitting the wall as a rookie and, having some fantastic stretches. I mean, you have to be a very good player to have those fantastic stretches. So we know it's there and it's not for lack of effort. It's not for lack of detail. I mean, he's one of those guys that when you're not looking, he's in the gym or staying on the ice and working on his game. Now, unfortunately for him, being a little bit in and out of the schedule, things moving around for him are still coming back into the lineup. It only, kind of makes it that much more difficult to kind of get your game to where you want it to be and to produce at the level he wants to produce at. So, listen, he's been great. He's, helped us get to where we are and he's going to continue to do that. And like I said, with the attitude he has, I have no doubt that, in the long run, it's going to all work out for him. Right now we're just in a situation where every point counts. So whatever Coach Brett thinks is the best lineup or the best line for him or the best situation for him is just how it's going to have to be. And him being a team guy, I know he understands that.
Well, Derek, a big one tonight in New Jersey. Appreciate so much you taking time to be with us this morning. Good luck tonight against the Devils, and we will talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely. Preds assistant coach Derek McKenzie, our guest here on the program. Preds are in action tonight, taking on the Devils. Puck drop is at 6 o'clock tonight, pregame at 5 o'clock here on 102.5 The Game. And then they'll close out this road trip out east on Saturday, taking on the New York Islanders before they're back home on Monday. And speaking of that, I got some tickets to give away to see the Preds take on the St. Louis Blues at Bridgestone Arena coming up on Monday night. Be caller number 3, 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Caller number 3 will win a pair of tickets to see the Preds take on the St. Louis Blues at Bridgestone Arena coming up on Monday night. We'll have the Rob Rant coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game.
Don't make me angry.
Sometimes you have to tell someone to pound sand.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
This is the Rob Rant. Now on Robby and Rexrode.
We're going to hire you to be the head coach, and we're going to have some onesies. I hate the V-necks. I hate how they feel. I just don't like them. I'm sorry.
It's so fun to hear you try to be hip.
Hiring your dad.
Brian Callahan hiring your dad.
I'm basically making out with the microphone.
Nate Ament made him your daddy.
Who is your daddy and what does he do?
Or we could say daddy here on the program. Let's just keep doing that.
Pound sand to the University of Alabama. It is time for the Rob Rant, brought to you by Functional Medicine of Tennessee. Heal from the inside out. Check them out at functionalmedicineoftennessee.net. By the way, appreciate Derek McKenzie for being with us in the last segment. Brought to you by Aero Exterminators. Going beyond the call, Aero Exterminators, a proud partner of the Nashville Predators. So, Joe, I've already yelled about what I was going to rant about earlier this hour, so I don't need to necessarily do that again. I do have another message, though, to some Titans fans out there. And I don't think this one is a very loud majority, but I have heard actually from some of these from my friends on my personal text line, and then I've seen some of it on social media. Just worried to death about what happens if Brian Daboll leaves after next year, okay? So Brian Daboll comes in, does a really good job as Titans OC, and then gets a head coaching job next year. I mean, they're worried to death about it. And look, I'm not saying it's a totally invalid concern in terms of, you're looking at Cam Ward's development and what happens if he goes from just running this system under Brian Callahan to the system they're getting ready to run under Brian Daboll. And if Daboll gets a head coaching job after that, you'd be on your third coordinator, I guess technically your fourth coordinator, and your third offensive system in 3 years if you're Cam Ward at that point. However, my message is this, Joe. Let's welcome that. I welcome Brian Daboll getting a head coaching opportunity next year. And do you know why I welcome Brian Daboll getting a head coaching opportunity next year, Joe? That probably means he's done a pretty darn good job, and you're feeling pretty good about Cam Ward after 2 years. And with everything that's gone on around here, and in the poor quarterback play that we've seen, and all the losing that they've done, and the turmoil in the organization, and all these different things, if we get to the end of this next season and Brian Daboll has done a good enough job as offensive coordinator with the Tennessee Titans to where teams are not only interviewing him next year to be a head coach, but actually pull the trigger and hire him to be a head coach next year, that probably speaks pretty well as to what's gone on here. Now, I mean, I guess, Joe, there's a world where that's not necessarily the case. Like, he could come in and do an okay job, and Cam Ward can be okay, and the offense in general can be okay, and he could still get hired, right? I mean, frankly, like, that's basically what happened with LaFleur. He came in, he did an okay job. The Titans offense was okay, and then they turned around at the end of the year and they handed it off to Derrick Henry a bunch of times, and then Matt LaFleur was the head coach of the Green Bay Packers. So that is possible. But if you're a Titans fan out there that's just worried to death about Brian Daboll leaving if he has success, I say this: let's welcome the success. Let's usher in the success. And then if that costs you the coach part of it at the end of it, so be it. Let's deal with the success. We've been dealing with too much failure around here.
Well, especially because if that happens, I don't see a scenario where that happens and Cam Ward doesn't take a pretty significant step. And he's still the most important person in the organization by far. He may end up outlasting this coaching staff too. I mean, and another one, who knows? But if I can't imagine Daboll getting a job if it isn't because people say, wow, look at Cam Ward's leap with Daboll, Now, I guess the best or the worst case scenario would be like some improvement from Cam, but and the offense like shows improvement. And by the way, I think the offense is closer than the defense in terms of personnel.
Totally agree.
But then the defense still stinks. Saleh can't fix it 1 year. You still have a terrible bottom line. You go like 5-12 because your defense couldn't get fixed, but there's some progress and it's enough for Daboll to get pride away. And then, I mean, the one thing about Daboll, if it's like a 1 year thing, again, as we've talked about, it's like you are changing systems, you are changing terminology at the very least, and some other things, different concepts. But now you probably are replacing him, going back to the Shanahan system, I would guess. That'd be my guess. It's like, okay, Robert, who do you got? It's probably going to be one of his guys, in the whole tree there that he's been a part of. And so then you're going to flip it right back and say, okay, Cam, remember like a lot of that terminology and everything from rookie year? Okay, we're going back to that now. Is that like devastating or anything? No, but it's at least annoying and a little bit of a hindrance if it happens that way.
Again, welcome it. Come on.
Yeah.
That means things are going well. Yeah. And look, this is this is part of what you deal with when you make the choice for the defensive coach, right? Like when you hire the defensive coach, that means if your offense has success, you're probably getting your coordinator pried away from you at some point, right? And that's why teams have drifted more towards trying to hire those offensive guys that are also the play caller. Now, that doesn't mean to me that you just distance yourself from hiring a quote-unquote defensive coach. Like you hire who you think is the best coach for the job. And the Titans clearly feel like Robert Saleh is the best coach for the job that was available to them at the time. Now, so we'll see what happens on that front. But like if Cam Ward is good enough in his second year where Brian Daboll gets hired as a head coach next off season, number one, that probably means that he has shown some things independent of coaching, even independent of coaching, that you're feeling pretty good about moving forward. So that's the first thing. But number two, all that does, Joe, is also enhance the attractiveness of the OC job, right? Like you're able to then attract really good candidates to come in and be an offensive coordinator and work with Cam Ward at that point. So like I see it as, sure. I understand like you don't want to lose. Like if Daboll's really good, you don't want to lose him after 1 year. I understand that. But if it works out that way and he's really good and Cam Ward ascends as a quarterback, that also makes that job in particular, the OC job with Cam Ward, more attractive at that point.
No doubt. Like Ed is saying, does it come down to as simple as like if Ward is good, Ward looks good, then Saleh looks good. I mean, that's the biggest factor. And OCs in this league, absolutely. What is the thing that's most attractive? Just like head coaches like Vrabel and other coaches looking at jobs. What are they looking at? Vrabel went all out for the Chargers job. He's like, okay, Justin Herbert is my quarterback. Yep. Then the Pats job. I understand it's the Pats, but like Drake May is my quarterback. Okay, yeah, let's do it. OCs are the same way. Yeah, let me go ahead and work with this guy, but also just be near this guy, and then I will benefit. I will draft off this guy because he's a very good quarterback. So you're right. If Daboll. Or I'm sorry, Daboll? It's not Daboll. Someone's telling us it's Daboll.
I think it is Daboll.
It's Brian Daboll?
Yeah, I think he was down there in Alabama one time. It was like basically, I think he used the Daboll like table analogy.
Okay, well, I've been going extreme Daboll.
Well, everybody on like ESPN calls him Daboll. So that's where that all came from.
They still do call him Daboll?
Oh yeah.
So he's another Mariota, huh?
Yes.
Okay, well, we need to get it right. So Brian Daboll. It just seems weird, man. I don't know. I have not heard that. I have not heard that in media at all. Daboll.
That's what we're going with.
Well, he is Canadian. Sometimes they have the different enunciations there. No offense, Redemption.
Do we think Daboll's played hockey?
Probably.
Oh, yeah, for sure. If you're born in Ontario, I think that's like a thing you have to do, right?
It's like a rite of passage up there.
I could see him over there, right up, pressed up against the ice. The camera pans down. He puts down a Bud Light real fast. I could see
Molson.
him.
Yeah, maybe he'll be.
God,
could be a regular at a Preds game.
Molson.
Huh? I can see that.
Exactly.
Could be.
You made me miss Molson. I haven't had a Molson in a long time.
I'm sorry. Didn't mean to have you craving beer in the middle of the show. It's my fault.
We're more of a Labatt.
Labatt?
Yeah.
Oh. No, whenever I go to Michigan, and that's one thing you just can't get down here. You got to get the Labatt, man. Labatt Blue, baby.
Yep.
Hey, tell Daboll to bring him. He's probably got a hookup.
By the way,
might need some to deal with Kuharski on a weekly basis.
Yeah, just got to manage the gout. Good point by the texter. So basically, just Vrabel, Table, Daboll. I guess that's what it is. But I do need him to confirm that. It's like who was the corner here? Still drives me crazy. Just who was just.
I don't know. They had a lot of corners here, man.
Well, it was just here. He has an African name, which people were like,
Awuzie? Awuzie?
Yeah. So he's
Chidobe. That's right.
Right. So if you say Chidobe Awuzie, that's fine. That's how you say it. But see, everybody around here wanted to say Chidobe Awuzie. No, he said in English, it's Chidobe Awuzie.
Yeah.
So if you're going to say my name in English, Chidobe Awuzie.
Yep.
I swear everybody in this whole press corps is like, Chidobe Awuzie. Stop it. I don't know why that got me so upset. Someone said Moosehead. We actually can get Moosehead down here, and that's solid. But it's not Labatt or Molson. Molson Canadian. What a great beer, man. Better than Molson Golden.
One texter says, one thing you guys aren't taking into account is that Dable will be the third best candidate available behind Tomlin and McDermott. Also, there probably won't be 10 job openings next season either. On the second part, I agree with. Probably not going to see as many job openings in the NFL next year as we saw this year. I mean, I guess. But you never know who could be available, as we found out this year with John Harbaugh getting fired and Sean McDermott getting fired and Mike Tomlin stepping aside.
Well, and I don't know if Tomlin's coaching again. I mean, I could see anything with him is possible. We'll talk about it next hour, but there is a little interesting sort of rumor out there so I don't know that, we'll see with McDermott. I don't know that McDermott is going to be in the next cycle. We'll see.
Well, apparently he's the worst coach of all time. They just got to go get Joe Brady in there, and they'll be fine up there in Buffalo.
Get McDermott out of there, and everything's going to be great.
Yeah. Speaking of coaching searches, one NFL team has severely upset, apparently, a former Titans coordinator. We will get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Thursday morning. Ian Safar live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Normally on Thursdays at 8 o'clock, we have Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports. Some scheduling stuff there. We'll have Charles actually on the show tomorrow. So looking forward to Charles being with us tomorrow. Taking your thoughts in the meantime, 615-737-1025. Joe, in the NFL, the Cleveland Browns have found their man. Todd Monken is the new head coach of the Cleveland Browns. So Monken lands the job. He signed a 5-year deal. And apparently in that process, Jim Schwartz was a finalist for the job. He felt good about his chances of landing the job. Apparently to the point of even after Kevin Stefanski was fired in Cleveland, Jim Schwartz thought that was his job to land, baby. And it turns out it was not, and they hired Monken. And apparently that has very much upset Jim Schwartz. Jim Schwartz is still under contract to be the defensive coordinator of the Browns. But the reports are that he has given indications that that may not happen and that he may be gone. And he apparently, after the Browns made their decision, Joe, he was walking around the building upset and giving people hugs and telling them bye and all this other stuff. And doesn't sound like Jim Schwartz at the moment is very open to coming back to the Browns if he's not going to be the head coach there. So what do you make of that? First off, what do you make of Todd Monken as the head coach of the Browns? And what do you make of apparently them really upsetting Jim Schwartz during this process as well?
It's just like it's amazing how one franchise, and I guess as many missteps as the Titans have made and embarrassments as they've had, like they still can't hold a candle to this organization. So first of all, look at it from the Titans perspective. Hey, keep doing that up there, because you talk about dumpster fires in the NFL. I don't know. I don't understand a lot of the things they do. And Todd Monken kind of comes out of left field for me. I mean, Browns fans are not going to be happy with Jim Schwartz, and I get that. Now, there's another guy who has failed head coach, very good, very successful D coordinator, and his head coaching failure goes way back with, granted, another one of those franchises that you give somebody an asterisk with at the freaking Detroit Lions, but they wouldn't have been happy with that. But Todd Monken, really interesting. You know, it's like the guy obviously gets a ton of credit. You tie him with John Harbaugh, and he gets a ton of credit for what they did with that offense, for sure. Like, to me, that's the ultimate, like, here's the player. What are we doing? You know, forget what we think our offense is. What are we doing to maximize the player? But also, Monken, per reporting, was really, it was more like Harbaugh was like the intermediary between Monken and Lamar Jackson this year. That doesn't, you have a conflict with a player, that happens. But he's going to Cleveland. Obviously, he's a good offensive mind, but I have no idea, like, what are they going to be? Who's their quarterback? All that stuff.
They got a Pro Bowl quarterback.
Well, that is true. There is that. So, yeah, I don't know. Any Browns fans, I'd like to hear your thoughts. I feel like we have a lot of, like, obviously Colts. We have way too many Bears fans who weigh in, and I don't want to hear about your freaking Bears, but we welcome your contributions. Any Browns fans, I'd love to hear what they think about this whole thing.
Well, the Jim Schwartz part of this is interesting. I mean, he's been a head coach in the NFL one time with the Detroit Lions, and we've talked about that before. He's 59 years old. He's clearly a very good defensive coordinator. Like, all the problems that Cleveland had, and I know that, down the stretch, their defense got shelled a little bit more. But, I mean, when you're beaten into the dirt on a weekly basis and you're out of it, sometimes that happens. But you had Myles Garrett doing what he does. Like, Jim Schwartz is clearly a good defensive coordinator, and we talked about him in connection with the Titans head coaching job, basically from the standpoint of he's been here before, right? Like, Arthur Smith, Jim Schwartz have both been here before. There's a connection with the organization. They're familiar, although I would argue Arthur Smith way more familiar with Amy than Jim Schwartz probably is, because when Jim Schwartz was here, when he was defensive coordinator, she wasn't really in that prominent of a role. Now, when he was here with Vrabel as an advisor or whatever that role was, I don't know how much he dealt with Amy then, but we talked about that in connection with the Titans job. Now that he's not landed the Browns job, I mean, I have to wonder, first off, like, is Jim Schwartz ever going to be an NFL head coach again. I don't know. Like, and then if he's upset to the point where he doesn't want to go back to Cleveland and be their DC, what happens with him from there? I mean, because again, technically he's under contract with the Browns. So, I mean, I guess they could hold him hostage there if they wanted to and be like, no, you're going to coach here. You're not going to coach anywhere in the NFL. You could do that. Will the Browns do that? If not, if they decide to let him go and basically make him a free agent, where does he end up as DC? Does he end up somewhere as DC? I mean, all that's going to be pretty interesting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Coveted in that role for sure. And, I know that, during a lot of, there were some Titans fans who were like, what about Jim Schwartz as a head coach? Certainly as a DC, you're talking about, you're talking about a really good DC. I mean, you could probably nitpick some of the stuff that we saw this year, including, when this particular team played against that defense. I don't know what the heck happened that day, but Cam Ward was very good. And he obviously has the best defensive player in football right now playing for him. But again, like if we're going to count that against people, then I guess maybe Bill Belichick actually has to spend more time out of the Hall of Fame because he had the best AFC East quarterback of all time, I think. And then also with the Giants, he won some rings with the best football player of all time, Lawrence Taylor, by the way.
Wow. Any shot you can take at Brady, just a consistent basis.
We
know this. We were talking yesterday about the Hall of Fame stuff, and we'll get back into that a little bit later this hour. But I threw the question out there yesterday, like with Tom Brady, are they going to just not make Tom Brady a first ballot Hall of Famer? We know if Rexrode was voting, he would not be. He would not be a first ballot Hall of Famer. There'd be a campaign going on in the room.
No, I mean, in all seriousness, I've seen there are people who, and this is again me forgetting who, but it might have been maybe Doyle. I mean, Doyle's out there. Greg Doyle, Indy Star's out there. Like, hell yes, Belichick shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. He's a cheater.
That was a take.
Yeah, but I mean, it's again like at his point, and Mike DeCourcy wrote something similar. Is like, so how do we look at the baseball thing, and then everybody's outraged by this, and some people are making the case, well, Brady should not be first ballot because of Deflategate. I'm not saying it.
If that freaking happens, just stop putting people in the Hall of Fame. Just go ahead and stop the Hall of Fame. If Tom Brady's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, just stop putting people in the Hall of Fame.
Did he cheat?
I don't know. You ask him, he says no.
Well, yeah, he says no. There's guys who are tied into the steroid thing who we don't have any documented evidence who also say no, and everybody knows they're lying. I mean, everybody knows he cheated. He cheated that day. Come on.
Sure.
Now, would I vote for him first ballot? I would.
What was the final score of that game?
Yeah, see, that's the worst argument against this. Great. So
what was the final score of that game?
I don't know. They beat them by a lot. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. What the cheating happened before the game.
I understand.
So I mean, yeah, they were way better than the Colts. They killed them. Great. That doesn't change one bit of did you cheat or not. So I'm just saying, just throwing it out there.
It's 45-7, by the way.
Yeah, I mean they were way better than the Colts. Why would you do that? That comes back to the why the hell would you do what you did?
I don't know. Again, I mean, it just goes back to he left New England and immediately went to Tampa Bay and won a Super Bowl. It's like, was he cheating there too? Like,
no,
he's probably the greatest player of all time.
Well, yeah, I understand that, right?
So again, the first ballot Hall of Fame discussion is ridiculous.
But again, I think Jim Harbaugh is also a really good football coach without cheating. He also cheated. So
Sure.
It's the two things being true. Brian Y is mad at me because I'm hating on the Bears fans. Bears fans, we had one good season last year. Now he's hating. Hey, look, man, my whole life, Brian, okay, my whole life, I had to hear the Bears fans Robby's yelling at Titans fans for overselling something and getting giddy about this is going to be amazing. We're winning it all. Bears fans absolutely top the list of all sports fans in that way. I promise you. And maybe it's not you, Brian Y. Maybe it's not you, but your fan base is the most over their skis, overhyping fan base of all time.
By the way, Jason in Goatsville is asking me if it says I need to answer the question if Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens are first ballot Hall of Famers, according to me. Yes, they are. The fact that they're not in there is ridiculous to me. So yes, to answer the question, yes, they should be.
Well, that's consistent, and that to me, that if that's your take, then then you can be outraged by this. But I do agree with people who say, hold on now, I understand it's a different kind of cheating, and I mean it's different in baseball because you're talking about stuff that like kids are looking up to these guys, and this is a thing that can destroy your body. Like there's more to it than like Spygate stuff, right? Or
Yes.
Deflategate stuff. But technically, if we're mad about the fact that it's cheating, then you should be consistent on both of these things.
We will continue to take your thoughts on the Bill Belichick part of this. We will get more into that a little bit later in the program. We're going to get back into the NFL coaching cycle coming up next, including some of the McDermott stuff that Rexrode talked about in the last segment. We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game.
It's almost as if the Browns plugged one hole and created another because Jim Schwartz is not happy about not getting the head coaching job. And he does have time left on his contract in Cleveland, but it right now appears like he is determined not to coach there. And so we have something of a standoff. I think the Browns are hoping that he calms down and cools off and that their new head coach, Todd Monken, can help convince Jim Schwartz to stay in Cleveland. But right now, it doesn't sound like Schwartz is willing to do that. And so they got somebody to help with the offense, but in the process, might have lost somebody that has essentially led the defense. And so there is a standoff right now, and they went from hiring a head coach to now having to try to placate a defensive coordinator if the Browns can even get that done, and that is at best uncertain.
That was Joe Rexrode's buddy Adam Schefter talking about the Jim Schwartz situation in Cleveland. Taking your thoughts at 615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. Joe, we've gone through the coaching cycle here. You know, we had a texter bring up next year, like if Daboll has a good year with the Titans, what's that going to look like? McDermott is an interesting name. I mean, the record is what it is. Pretty good record from Sean McDermott. Could not get it done often enough in the playoffs with Buffalo. Now he's out of a job, and apparently, according to Bills ownership, it's just like, well, we got Sean McDermott out here, so everything should be smooth sailing moving forward here. Apparently, McDermott was approached by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Joe, to take on a role with their staff, but he is taking 2026 off, going to reevaluate in 2027. What do you make of the Sean McDermott part of this as to the attractiveness of him as an NFL coach moving forward?
Yeah, well, so I've let my imagination wander a little bit, and it's actually related to Schefter. Did you guys see the Schefter thing with the Philly radio station?
No, what happened?
Okay, well, yeah, a lot of people have written about it too. I saw it. Someone tweeted it out, and it's so he goes on this Philly radio hit, and he's like, basically, of course, the Eagles have been like turned down by everybody for the OC, including Daboll.
Yeah,
Brian Daboll.
Nobody wants the job.
McDaniel, apparently like Kafka too, like other people. So yeah, which is wild. So Schefter's on there talking about different people and all that on 97.5, The Fanatic in Philly. And he says, so the host is like, okay, we'll talk to you next week. Maybe we'll be reacting to a hire. And Schefter's like, well, it might be even more than that. They're like, whoa. And then, might be more of a discussion, might be more than an OC discussion. Excuse me. Schefter says, let's see what happens. So it's like, whoa. And then, of course they let their minds wander. So I immediately went to, dude, is it possible that they might just like say, Sirianni, you're out, McDermott, come on? I think that I'm letting my imagination run wild. I don't think that's going to happen, but I am intrigued by that. Like, what the heck does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean?
Well, some people have speculated that, like, it means that they're definitely going to trade A.J. Brown. But again, that's not something that next week would be a thing. So I don't know. I don't know. I like my initial thought was, is Sirianni going to get a late just to make this cycle just crazier than ever? But the thing about that is, if you did that, unless you were like promoting and trying to keep everybody there, like all of a sudden you're scrambling to put together a staff at this point.
Look, Sirianni, clear. I mean, I think he's almost been fired there like 2 or 3 times at this point, and then they'll go win the Super Bowl. So there is that. I mean, was this year, by the way, a year in which they won the division again and then got back to the playoffs. Was this year, firing worthy? Like, as the offensive situation and the turmoil gotten that bad where they got to fire Nick Sirianni?
Yeah, to me, it's only if you're, again, like, that's why I went there, because I'm like, maybe they just love McDermott. They're like, that guy is exactly who we need as our coach.
Yeah. He
will stabilize all this BS. And I don't know, but then again, the Bills are telling everybody that he apparently is the worst. he was the problem. Everybody else is cool. Yeah, just McDermott.
We got
was the
Joe
problem.
Brady here now, and everything's going to be great.
Yeah.
Never mind the fact he was already here.
But yeah, that because to me that's the only way. It's the only way is if you're like, okay, we actually have our answer, so let's just do it. Because if we don't do it now, I guess they could do it next year too.
Yeah.
You know, if McDermott's just going to wait, which I'm sure he is. He's basically told people he's gonna wait, and he'll be. I think he'll be coveted because the thing about McDermott is we talk about retreads and how many of them have failed first time and succeeded second time. And he's not in that category. He's succeeded first time, and now he'll probably succeed again, just like Vrabel succeeded first time, and he'll probably succeed again.
You want to be the one to start the push to bring AJ home, get that trade going, get Borgonzi to fire up the phone and get AJ Brown back in here.
I mean, listen, man. How old is AJ now? Is he's 29-ish?
I don't think he's that old, is he?
Is he not even
28.
that old?
Yeah, he's 28.
Okay.
He'll be 29 in June. So yeah, I guess he is gonna be 29.
Okay.
Good Lord, we're old. Okay.
Yeah, I know. I mean, he's really interesting. Like beyond the Titans, like great player. Last year, how much of last year? There was so much stuff going on, and obviously, he just, man, it really wasn't like this here. I mean, here and there, he did some weird stuff, like when he was loopy, and he did like a Instagram live of his post surgery and stuff like that. But he didn't. It wasn't really. For the most part, it was fine here, but obviously, it has not been there. It's almost like. But I almost feel like because he and Hurts are friends, it was worse, if that makes sense.
I agree.
Like you know what I mean? Like you could feel like you just like publicly gripe at someone because you're actually longtime friends with them, and maybe it would be different in a different place. I don't know. I'm not closed off to it. It's he's probably looking at a downturn here as he gets into his 30s, but he's still pretty freaking good. You don't think Cam Ward could? Yeah, right.
The pendulum just swings all the way back. Franchise kind of fell apart when they traded AJ. And maybe it just getting him back is all it takes.
Of all the moves, and I know now there's like Vrabel and all that, but
there's a lot of moves.
But man, that one was that a
rough
domino?
One.
Yeah, that was a big domino.
That's a rough one. Let's head to our phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Neil to the program. Neil, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Hey guys, how y'all doing this morning?
Good, buddy.
Good.
I just want to talk about the Hall of Fame voting, and there's two recent snubs that I think is absolutely a joke. The first one was last year. How did Adam Vinatieri not get in? He's the greatest kicker of all time. It's not even close. No offense, Sterling Sharp. I'm 45. I watched him play. He didn't play long enough. And Eric Allen, Jared Allen, there ain't no way that, the guy's got 4 Super Bowls, including 2 game-winning kicks. And then Bill Belichick. Like, come on, I don't want to hear about Deflategate, Spygate. The guy's an amazing coach, and I get tired of people talking about how Brady carried New England. Listen, man, they needed each other, and Brady went to a stacked team in Tampa Bay and won that ring in spite of Bruce Arians' coaching. So let's just be honest, man. They needed each other. He learned a lot from Belichick. He's the greatest defensive coach in NFL history. They need to totally revamp how they're doing things, but there's no way Adam Vinatieri didn't get in. That bothers me just because he's a kicker. Hell, you see how important kickers are now winning games.
I agree. Well, it's also to that point, think about some of the kicks that he made specifically. I mean, my goodness.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for calling me. Appreciate
Super Bowl.
It. Yeah, Super Bowl.
Guys,
appreciate it. I mean, Super Bowl for Vinatieri obviously made some huge kicks in those games, but the tuck rule game, man, pretty good kick in the snow.
Yeah, but he's a freaking kicker.
Here we go. Yeah.
I mean, was Morton Anderson in the Hall of Fame?
I don't know. How many kickers are in the Hall of Fame?
That's what I question. I mean, look, Vinatieri. Yes, I joke, but I agree. He should be I'm okay again with some people waiting a little bit, and we'll get into some of this stuff too about this whole thing with Belichick. I mean, there's, but with kickers, it's also look, if you have the opportunity to make those kicks in the Super Bowl, that's just going to elevate you. And I agree that Vinatieri should be in. Like a guy like Morton Anderson, for example, there are kickers who are incredible, who just it's not their fault that they play for crappy teams most of their career, right? Still made winning kicks, to go like 8-8 on the year and stuff like that. Still like performing the clutch, incredibly consistent, all that stuff. They just didn't happen to be on great teams.
By the way,
how do you judge those guys against each other?
Morton Anderson is a Hall of Famer.
Oh, there you go. All right. Well, yes. Yeah, get Vinatieri in there. I agree.
I mean, just get I think we're probably short on kickers in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. That's kind of the takeaway.
Rolf Benershka, anyone?
Yeah.
Great kicker with Dan Fouts. Dan Fouts would put him in the Hall of Fame.
615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. We will continue to take your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We will get more into this Belichick story of not getting in the Hall of Fame. Paul Kuharsky getting some recognition out there. We'll get into all that as well. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Our phone number, 615-737-1025. A lot of different thoughts on the potential A.J. Brown reunification with the Titans. Some Titans fans don't want any part of that at all. They're like, screw A.J. Get him out of here.
Part him.
We'll see how it goes.
Watch the language, folks.
Yeah.
See
how it goes.
Fart this, fart that.
You think he's actually going to end up getting traded?
I have no idea. Yeah, there's so many different things you can look at. Someone texted, it's not his fault that, Jalen Hurts can only throw a hitch. But then I heard people say it's not Jalen Hurts' fault that the Eagles OC only calls a hitch or a hitch and go. Look, man, I watched Jalen Hurts less than a year ago play incredible football to win a Super Bowl. I'm sorry, man.
Against a very good defense, by the way.
Yeah, I guess I can't buy that. Like, his limitations are where you start. I can't buy that. So maybe AJ, but then again, because Devontae Smith, by the way, is kind of quietly really kind of diminished a little bit, and he's not really like to me, AJ Brown is still by far the bigger threat, the bigger thing that moves defenses, guy who can still win any one-on-one battle downfield. So you take him away. Well, you saw Barkley kind of take a step back this year. You might be taking a step back.
The thing is, they both ended up with basically the exact same numbers. Like Devontae Smith this year had 77 catches for 1,008 yards and 4 touchdowns. And I think AJ Brown, AJ Brown had 78 for 1,003 and 7 touchdowns. I mean, it's basically identical. AJ just had 3 more touchdowns.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, for all the turmoil,
they had 2,000-yard receivers.
That's not bad.
That's what I'm going back to, though. But nobody wants the job. Nobody wants to be the Eagles OC. And it's like, well, look, I understand there's clearly some problems there, clearly. But my goodness, they got a lot of talent on their roster.
Yeah. Yeah, and they were good. That's the other thing too. It's like, yeah. Obviously, you're at this stage where it's like championship or bust, and their roster overall is a championship roster. But it's not like they completely turtled this year, and went into a tailspin. So I don't know. I'm very interested to see what this possible major thing, other than trying to hire an OC, would be.
So on the Belichick front, Joe, that's still clearly getting a lot of attention out there over the last couple of days. You've had, you mentioned Greg Doyle in Indianapolis came out with a take that was basically like, yeah, screw Bill Belichick. I mean, he doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. So have some of that. A lot of commentary on how this has all gone down. Joe, there's been a piece that's come out at The Athletic kind of detailing this about one voter who didn't pick Bill Belichick to be in the Hall of Fame. It had nothing to do with Spygate, had nothing to do with Deflategate, and it kind of ties into what Kuharski was talking about yesterday of kind of the voting process, how it's going, how it's been changed, what that looks like at this point, and how maybe guys who have been quote-unquote snubbed, I guess depending on what your opinion is in the past, are back on the ballot, and you've only got the opportunity to vote for so many people. So what do you make of kind of the evolution of this Bill Belichick story over the last 24 hours since we had this conversation with Kuharski yesterday?
Yeah, so the original piece is in the Kansas City Star, but that's a hard paywall, so I couldn't read the whole column. Vahe Gregorian, super, one of the long time great sports writer, super nice guy, and he wrote basically it's an aggregation at The Athletic, but he wrote a really thoughtful, and he admitted that I did not vote for Bill Belichick. And essentially, one of the things there is he didn't think it would matter, And again, people don't. I don't know. Maybe a Belichick would care. Does it have to be unanimous if your first ballot? I mean, whatever, right? But they did change things, and so he had. And Carsey was telling us about this yesterday. They changed the process, and so his maximum allotment of votes. There are some players who are going to cycle out, okay? And so if you think they're deserving, if you don't vote for them now, well, then they're going to be out of there. So those 3 votes he gave to Roger Craig, linebacker L.C. Greenwood, and quarterback Ken Anderson.
Yeah.
So first of all, when I hear that, big thing is good for Vahe for talking about this and being willing to, because I saw like his tweet of the column and then I saw the replies.
Not good.
People were not taking it well. And I must say, like, I think Roger Craig was a great player. Man, I don't know. Is he a Hall of Famer? Like, he's a great player for those Niners teams. I don't know, man. I feel like it's not like he was ever like one of their best players. Like their best players were obviously Jerry Rice, obviously Joe Montana, who was one of the best NFC West quarterbacks of all time. And Ken Anderson, I don't know. I kind of struggle with that one too. He's a really good player. LC Greenwood, it seems to me like yes, he's certainly a Hall of Famer. But anyway, that's how he felt, and it wasn't in his mind. And I believe him. Like he wrote, like, it's not. I wasn't penalizing Belichick or anything like that. I think he should be in, which of course, as he said, that's contrary to my vote. I get it. But here's a quote from him. He says about those votes he gave. He said, quote, each of those men, in my opinion, unequivocally belongs in Canton among dozens of at least similarly decorated players who have been relegated to Pro Football Hall of Fame voters have come to call the abyss of senior candidates, end quote. So it kind of comes down to, he believes they are. Some people would say, well, they're just not worth it anyway. I haven't dug in on like all the numbers with all those candidates. Okay. Yeah. But the bottom line is he went that way. I believe him. I appreciate the transparency. And frankly, he just thought there was no way that there would be enough people who didn't vote for Belichick. So,
yeah, it's interesting because, Joe, like I hear that and my immediate reaction to it is, well, see, I don't love that. Like, to me, you need to look at the candidates who are available and vote for who you think are the most deserving candidates, right? Not who's about to expire, right? So that's kind of my immediate reaction to it. But again, I mean, as you pointed out, the complication there is, well, if you think that those guys are deserving and you don't vote for them now, well, you're not going to get a chance here coming up. So it is complicated that way. But I can tell you, like that was what a lot of the reaction I saw from his piece that he wrote yesterday was, so wait a minute, you had Belichick standing there right in the face and you agreed that he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame and you didn't vote for him? Like, what in the world's going on there?
Yeah. So Charles, who we'll have tomorrow, who normally would be in this spot, he tweeted this. He said, I wonder if NFL Hall of Fame voters would be in favor of immediately scrapping the vote for 3 out of 5 tweak and just recasting their votes as a simple yes or no for the 5 candidates in the senior committee players /coaches /contributors category. So you wonder if there might be a switch on that too. I don't know. I have no idea if that's actually feasible or if it's more of just a hypothetical. They wish they didn't switch it, but clearly, the switch has caused some issues. So, and then others, like Ian O'Connor also wrote a column for us, and he talked to a lot of the voters, and he acknowledged this was truth, but the people he talked to, it's still more. The biggest thing for most of the people who didn't vote for him was Spygate. And that's what people told him. And some said that have put their names on it. Some have not. I think they all should.
Yes.
But that's still, per his reporting, the biggest factor is Spygate. So,
well, just give Belichick a couple years and he'll make his push towards the College Football Hall of Fame, and maybe that'll be a nice consolation prize when he wins a couple natties down there in North Carolina.
That's right. That's right. Well, and that's another thing about this. I obviously missed this. Like, did Belichick at some point have to declare I will never come back to the NFL?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know, because they've changed the rules up on that where you can just immediately put somebody in after a year and they don't have to go through that waiting period anymore. But I mean, I have not seen that anywhere. That doesn't mean he didn't do it, but I have not seen where he was just like, yeah, I'll never go back to the NFL. So I don't know. That part of it's pretty interesting.
And I do think that, and we've talked about this too, but the 1 year thing, I think also is another thing where it is like, it doesn't seem right, I think, as a voter too. Like, already? Like, there should be this 5-year period that we're used to, And yeah, these are all excuses. I mean, I would have voted for him. There's people though, that like, someone in the text says an argument to be made against Belichick getting in the Hall of Fame because if it wasn't for Spygate, how many games would he have won? He would have been fired after 2 or 3 years at New England. And the argument of what look at his record without Brady. But again, my answer to that is always, I want you to find me the coach who's great, who had big success in this league, who did it with a bunch of scrubs. I understand Brady's a different deal. I get it. But I mean, come on. You have to have great players. It is about players.
I don't agree with the Spygate, Deflategate stuff, but I can at least listen to it, right? Like I will listen to somebody try to make that case. And if you feel that strongly about it, where you didn't vote him into the Hall of Fame as a first ballot Hall of Famer, I don't agree with it. But I guess to some degree, Joe, I at least understand where it's coming from. The Brady stuff is stupid. Like, if you want to start talking about, like, is Bill Belichick really the greatest coach of all time because of the Brady stuff? That's fine. Like, to me, that's a valid conversation to have. Yep. That's fine. But if you're trying to use the Brady stuff to keep him out of the Hall of Fame, that ain't how that works, man. No. Like, his record is what it is. The Super Bowls are what they are. He had Brady with him. So what? Like, it's on his record too.
Yeah, so I'll give you a quick interaction with an unnamed texter. It says, what's Belichick ever done without Brady? I said that. Has any coach, what's any coach who didn't have great players ever done? He says, come on, man. He had no other good players besides Brady. Get real. He's failed everywhere he's been when he didn't have the greatest QB of all time. And again, I say to that, and I know I take fun shots at Brady, but in all seriousness, go back to the early Patriots championships. Those teams did not have Tom Brady putting up monster numbers. Those teams were built around their great defenses, which was Belichick's thing. Those were defense-led teams, and Brady, to his credit, clutch the late drives.
Big moments. Yeah,
no question. I mean, it was like, holy crap! Look at what Tom Brady's doing. People seem to some people want to remember them as what they were later, which was very much more centered around and relying upon Brady. That wasn't the whole thing. That wasn't the whole championship run. Their first iteration of the dynasty was Brady became a star and was huge in huge moments. He did not carry those teams, not at all.
615-737-1025, our phone number. More your reaction to the Belichick stuff with the NFL Hall of Fame. We'll wrap up the show as well with Robert Saleh's press conference coming up later today. What do we want to hear from the new Titans head coach today? We will get into all that. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Final segment of the day, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Thursday morning. Appreciate everybody's thoughts and participation throughout the show today. We welcome more of those on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. YouTube chat has been flowing all day, so we appreciate that. So, Joe, is Belichick in the Hall of Fame next year? When he's eligible again next season, is he I guess that would be a second ballot Hall of Famer?
I predict that there will not be a single vote against him. Although I'll predict that. I can see one or two, and those are the people who are like, he's a cheater. I'm not putting him in. And again, if that is your stance and your hard line, and you're like, these Bonds and these Clemens should never get in, you know what? I respect it. I respect that. And I would have voted for him. I think, paying a year penance is not the end of the world, especially when you accelerated things, especially when you change the process. But yes, next year he will be in.
Do we think that
the world will rejoice?
Do we think that Jordan Hudson has sent like an email to the Pro Football Hall of Fame committee that has been, CC'd through Belichick? Like, how do we think that process has gone?
Oh man, that's a good question. Like, has there been any sort of reaction from her? Every once in a while, she'll get on social media and do something.
Are they at a cheerleading competition?
Well,
I don't know.
If so, does this cause like a performance issue at the cheerleading competition? Yeah, I don't know.
Could be. And you're clearly referring to on the mat as well, so that would be good.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I mean cheerleading performance. Good
is
God.
a low T alert.
See, you get me into these. That was not an intentional. It was not my intent. You know what I'm saying?
That'll be clipped.
Please know what I'm saying.
That's coming in a Rex rant near you sometime soon.
I'm talking like when the Flyers are up there, and and
sure
the stunters.
I was just offering additional clarification to what you said.
Oh, good God!
That's all I was doing.
I mean, sometimes I try to make these jokes, but then when you don't, it's really tough.
Joe, Robert Saleh being introduced as Titans head coach today. He will have his official press conference. I'm interested to see how that goes. Obviously, he's been in waiting here with some stuff going on for him, but also the snowstorm and the ice storm here in Nashville. So that finally happening today for the Titans. Look, it's an introductory press conference. So in the grand scheme of things, it means absolutely nothing, as is evidenced by like Brian Callahan. I thought had a pretty good introductory press conference, and boy, that didn't matter at all. So, in the grand scheme of things, today's press conference really doesn't mean all that much. But having said that, I think Titans fans interested to hear from a new head coach, interested to see, some of the, how much detail is he going to go into about maybe what he shared with Mike Borgonzi and the decision makers with the Titans throughout the hiring process, and kind of his vision for the football team. What kind of stands out to you about maybe what you're most interested to hear from Robert Saleh today at the press conference?
Yeah, you just hit it. He's going to win the presser. It's going to be great. People are going to be excited. Don't let that change wherever you are on the excitement scale. If you're high, stay high. If you're low, he's going to win the press conference. He's going to be good. Brian Callahan's presser was great. Rand Carthon's presser was great. Actually, Vrabel's presser kind of sucked. So, I mean, don't read too much into this. Vrabel had a lot of pressers early in his tenure that were like, this guy is, what the hell? So, you got to keep all that in mind. But sure. I think the biggest thing, I do want to hear, I want to hear the Dable. Got to get used to that. The Dable. I want to hear the Dable backstory with him and Dable, and also sort of, was this like, hey, what would you think about working with Dable?
Yeah.
Or was it him? And again, are they going to be fully transparent on that? I have my doubts, but it's definitely the thing that I think is something that has to be asked, and is very interesting to see how it'll be answered.
Yeah, that probably highlights it to me of like how exactly did the Dable marriage come together there. And I don't know how much detail they're going to go into that, right? I mean, we'll see what that answer looks like. But, how much familiarity did he have with Brian Dable before this hire was made? That's also another one that I'm interested to see what he has to say on that front. So it'll be cool to see him in the building, in the press conference later today. We'll see you, Joe, if there's if there's a facility-wide standing ovation video that comes out later today as well. He did get off the plane yesterday, and as far as I could tell, there was no facility-wide standing O that I saw via video from the Titans. So that was good.
Yeah. The Titans' social media stuff has been been kind of low key, which is good. Is good.
I like it.
Yeah, so we'll see if that maintains. A couple quick points that I want to get to. First of all, Ed, I've said this before. Joe Gibbs, the greatest coach ever, and you look at what he did with that culture, with that team, and he did it with several different quarterbacks winning it all in basically a decade stretch. I think Joe Gibbs is the greatest coach ever. I agree with you, Ed. And also, I think Craig makes a good point. We talk about greatness. What about greatness in coaching? What did Michael Jordan ever win anything without Phil Jackson? Even with Phil Jackson, they struggled against the Detroit Pistons in the playoffs. Remember, Michael Jordan went 1-3 in playoff series against the Detroit Pistons. I'd like people to always keep that stat in mind.
Would you vote Michael Jordan into the Pro Basketball Hall of Fame had you had a vote at the time?
I got to see the other candidates.
Okay, yeah.
I got to see the whole ballot, man. I don't know.
What exactly does that ballot look like?
Yeah. Who you got on there? You got Jack Sikma? Yeah, Jack Sikma, Michael Jordan. I don't know. We'll see. Terry
Michael
Cummings?
Jordan, Tom Brady. Who needs them?
Yeah,
who needs them?
Yeah, they were really good. I 100% agree with all of you. They were really good.
I mean, what division are the Bulls in the NBA? Is that the Central?
Yeah, I think so. It used to be. Now it's like you just look at the conference.
Yeah.
By the way, did you see the stuff with Jordan? With the whole thing with NBC?
No.
Like basically they had this whole thing like, oh, Jordan is going to be part of the coverage. And like they had one interview with him and then he's like, yeah, I'm not going to do anything else. And they paid him like $36 million for one interview. That's his
That does not surprise me at all.
Unbelievable. He is the GOAT of like fleecing people.
Yeah.
I will give him that.
I'm seeing a headline now. It says Michael Jordan's pre-taped NBC appearances, quote, probably not what everyone wanted, Mike Tirico says. Probably not exactly what we had in mind for the Michael Jordan part of this coverage.
What's the number? What's the number in there? Does it give the number?
I have not seen it yet, but let me see.
He got a big number to do one sit-down interview.
Hey, man. Guess if you're Michael Jordan, you can pull that off.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I need Barkley's mad because ESPN's putting them on the Ocho, and I agree with him. We need more of those guys out front, please.
I agree. That does it for us today here on the program. Robert Saleh's press conference coming up later this afternoon. We'll have full reaction to that tomorrow. Charles Robinson with us tomorrow, as well as TD. Hope everybody has a great rest of your day. Next man up coming up next. You're listening to 102.5 The Game.